Good morning. I believe I found out what the problem was for being late. Apparently, I wasn't signed into Google, so that's what happened. So I'm going to give it a few minutes. I know I'm late. We got one person here, and we're going to go on to part two. And part two is based on what you need to look in any man, basically for the Filipinos, especially a Western man, because there's things that people overlook. So we're going to talk about his habits, his health, how he takes care of himself, and the way he spends his time. So I'm going to give it a few minutes, or a minute or so. Uh, Sorry for being late. I was wondering why I can't sign on, and I found out why. So, anyways, this goes for the women also. So, I have noticed, at least here in Western culture, especially the United States, we have a very high divorce rate. And the reason why we have this is because people are more focused on what they desire, what they hope for, and what they dream about. And from a young age, we are kind of programmed and conditioned that this is the way it's supposed to be. I was recently looking at one video, and this was done by a younger person, and she was absolutely brilliant how she explained it, at least here in the West. So she is in her late 30s, 40s. So at least in her realm, she was raised and conditioned, and her peers, that the girls are supposed to be like princesses and the men are supposed to be like superheroes. And they're supposed to fit into this role where the man's a superhero, he does everything, and the girl's the princess and she's saved and everything else and taken care of by the superhero. This is not reality. When you go to poorer countries like the Philippines or other countries and other cultures, they still have this ideal. However, by talking with people from other countries, they've told me, yes, we're raised with this is like a really good ideal, but we know it's not reality. Unfortunately, in the West and especially America, you're conditioned where this is a reality and it should be a reality, and this is what you have to look for. And he or she has to be like this in all ways, or, that's not going to be a good relationship. So let's go on with the live stream since I gave a little precursor on this. So, as I was talking about the last live stream, what people fail to understand about a relationship, one of the first and primary things is any relationship, a friendship or anything, isn't based on what you're getting out of it. It's what you need to sacrifice for it to be successful. So if you're having a relationship, a friendship, or whatever, what you're willing to sacrifice is what makes that a good or bad relationship. And I'm going to explain it really simply. If you're not, I know a lot of people here and they're takers. They don't like to give. They use a word, and let me explain. We're going to get into what to look for, but they base it on value. A person is valuable for them based on what they can get. If they're not getting their needs, be it what that person does for them, their emotional needs, if that person makes them feel a certain way, important or whatever, and if they're able to maintain that or not, then they're valuable. This is a very extremely childish mentality to have. And unfortunately, many people in the US have this mentality. They're very childish when it comes to any form of relationship with any person. Value. I've heard people say this. They're not valuable. Or what's the value in this? You know, anybody that let me give you a warning. Anybody that is talking about another person, be it a friendship, an employee, or anything like that, and they say value, you don't want that person in your circle. I'm going to explain why. They're dangerous. They tend to have sociopathic tendencies, and they'll drop you like a rock in the water once you don't have value anymore. And then they'll become abusive towards you. So be aware of that phrase, value. I value our friendship. That means you're putting it on a level. It's what I get, not what I give. I'm going to give as little as possible because it's what recently in the last decade or so, we have a movement in this country called free trade, meaning people recognize that there are people in other countries that work hard and they get very little for the goods that they're providing to the people in the West. They're taken advantage of. And people with conscience want these people to be compensated for their work, for their product in a fair, equitable way. Hey, Charles. So it's called free trade. They're not looking at this as a value. They're looking at this as I need to live ethically and I need to be willing to sacrifice and pay more in order to have this person, this group of people to be compensated fairly for their work and trade. Because they recognize also that there is a relationship here. So free trade is very big with a lot of younger folks. So people basically, I would say 50 years and younger, are very focused on free trade because they're not looking at it as I want to get as much as I can for as little as I could put out. And this is a mentality that is prevalent here. So be aware of anybody that uses the phrase value when it comes in terms of a relationship because they're not going to sacrifice. And getting back to sacrifice in a relationship, when you sacrifice in a relationship, that is what an adult does, a proper adult. And I'll give you a perfect example that has really bugged me over the last 3 decades that I've heard. I hear this a lot from women where I have to do this and I have to do this and I have to deal with the kids. Hey, Lost, how are you doing? I have to deal with the kids and I can't go out with my girls and I can't do this because of the kids and I have to deal with them. That is a kind of a selfish thing to say because You wanted to have the kids. And you didn't foresee the sacrifice that the kids are going to take out of your life. So if you want to have children, you have to recognize that there's going to be big sacrifices, and you're not going to have your life the way it was before you had these people come into your life. And this is with any other relationship. So, ladies, be aware of this. And also, gentlemen. Exactly. And that is exactly Lost. Lost said you have to sacrifice for the kids. That is the most important. I'm seeking a Panay. No need to ask me why. Correct. And many Western men recognize this because I'll talk about this in a second. Let me finish this point. Westerners do not have an innate ability anymore to have an adult mind and an adult emotional state to recognize in order to have something in their life, they have to sacrifice. If I want a certain type of car and I can't afford it, then I have to sacrifice it. However, we're giving a means with something called credit. So Westerners take advantage of credit because they're able to get what they want. But then they complain about the credit card companies or the credit companies taking advantage of them because they're getting all this high interest. They can't see that they needed to sacrifice something for this. So in many small forms, Westerners just think it's a big party. I could just get what I can at any means because I want the value of having this, and I want to put out as little as possible. And Charles here stayed with his ex because of the two kids. He sacrificed. So, for whatever reason, the relationship wasn't the best, yet for the kids, he sacrificed. He stayed with the wife, and he probably sucked it up and had to endure a lot of pain in order to make sure the kids had what they needed. So here's Charles. Once they were out of high school, once they were adults, then they parted. And I guarantee they probably talked about this beforehand, like two reasonable adults, or at least on Charles' side, one reasonable adult. Okay, so we got over into one of the key things, value. A relationship shouldn't be valued. A relationship needs to be earned. Period. If you can't afford it, don't have it. It's not a credit card that you put up and then eventually what you wanted to have put in, you don't want to deal with anymore, and then you leave. You default. You default on your credit loans. You walk away. You're scarred for life, and you want to do the same thing with the relationship. Value. Remember that. So, ladies, you're with your man. Do you value our relationship? Oh, yes, I value you do so much. Blah, 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 blah. That's a red flag. Honey, do you value our relationship? I wouldn't say that exactly. I cherish our relationship. I love being with you. I learned so much about you. I learned so much about myself. that's someone you stay with. I believe you. I've been there. So this is where we're going to go with the first step, his health. There's three healths. There's physical health, there's emotional health, and there's spiritual health. We're going to hit the spiritual first, which is tied into his emotional health. So, how a person views the world, views his or her life, and views those around him shows a lot about their emotional and spiritual health. If they're always complaining about something, if they're always upset about something, or they need to be upset about something, if they're always need to feel that they have to fix something, if they have to impose a will on something, if they have to control something all the time, that's a red flag. The Philippine people are very laid back, and I don't want to say they don't take life seriously. They don't take life as seriously as a Westerner does. Excuse me. I've got a lot of light here. I need to tone it down. So, a lot of Westerners are over concerned with the way things have to be in order for them to be content or to be happy. If something gets changed out of the routine or their expectations, and they get upset very easily or impatient or disgruntled about this, it's something you have to consider. Cool, Charles, that's good. Um, I hear a lot of Westerners complain about waiting in line, going to a store, not in stock, sir, next week. They come back, it's not there next week. Get over it. Get over it. If they're complaining about things that you live with all the time, and can't accept it, then you need to reconsider if he's going to be complaining all the time. Uh, I hear complaints about roosters and motorcycles. Um, Number one, the world isn't going to change for you. And a lot of Westerners have this attitude. Now, here in the West, kind of fortunately for a lot of people, we have a phrase: the squeaky wheel gets the oil. So when you complain a lot and you go to a person in charge, a congressman or whatever, and you make a lot of noise and you get a lot of other people making a lot of noise, you could get something changed. And a lot of Westerners have this habit of complaining that they think they could come to the Philippines and do the same thing, and the Philippines is going to change to tailor the Philippines for the Westerner. It's not going to happen. So be concerned with the complainer. Um, Also, be aware of his habits. Is he a smoker? Is he a drinker? Um, the type of food he has to have. Uh, when I say when I say a drinker, I don't drink, but going out and having an occasional beer or maybe having a beer once a day, that's one thing. But having to go out and, you know, every night and go to the bar, something like that, you need to be aware of that. Um, Unless he's from a place like Alabama or Florida or something, somewhere like that, where it's hot and humid, if he is drinking and smoking, his health is going to go down very quick. You have a lot more things in the tropics that are out there that will come into your body and affect you. And Western people figure I could just go to the doctor. If he could just afford to go to the doctor, that's fine. However, your body shouldn't have to be, to take care of your body, you shouldn't have to be going to the doctor all the time. Seriously, living in the tropics, I think more often for a Western person, see, Charles is fit and he's ready for that lifestyle. I think if a man has to go to the doctor more than once every 2 months to be checked, that's kind of a red flag, unless he has a condition and we're going to go to health. So we kind of touched on it, his emotional state, what he expects out of life. You need to have some really hard talks about this with him because a lot of Westerners have expectations. They see the beautiful tropical islands, the beautiful women, the happy faces, and this and that. When they get there, they don't see raw sewage in the street. They don't smell the fumes of the traffic, the roosters, the barking dogs, the noise, the karaoke at night. They don't see all of this. And then they start complaining. And you need to be firm and hard. That's the Philippines. If you don't, so I'm going to check something. Okay, I think I'm back. I'm waiting for that. I might have to hold this up for a second. There we go. I'm going to do something different to get my signal. So, pre existing conditions with the Western man, his health. Does he require constant medication for high blood pressure, things like that? Because if he is going to be on a fixed budget where he can afford his foods that he needs in order to maintain his health, that's going to be a concern down the road. If he's coming in his mid to late 50s, 60s, 70s, and he's got these preconditions with his health, it's going to get worse there. Face it. It will get worse. It's not going to get better. I've been watching a lot of these YouTubers, and they come with a little extra weight, and they're getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and they complain about their health. They're in seeing the doctor once a week, twice a week. They're going to the hospital every 2 to 3 months because of their health. They're not able to maintain their health there. And they're living in a province type of environment on a low budget, and they're barely able to afford their medications. That needs to be a big concern for you. Again, and nurse all in one. And you have to ask yourself, do I want to be someone's nurse the rest of their life? Because they failed to take care of themselves earlier in life. And that a lot goes with his psychological and his maturity. Because a mature person will take care of themselves at a young age. High blood pressure, heart conditions, they can be genetic, but they just don't come on and when you're taking care of yourself. Being overweight, it can be genetic. But if you come to the Philippines and you're 180 pounds, and 3 years later you're pushing 250, he could do very little complaining of what's going on. So be aware of that, ladies. You don't want to be a nurse the rest of your life. You need to be out there enjoying life going places, not just to the store. He needs to be able to say, hey, every 2-3 months, let's take a short trip somewhere for 2-3 nights. I'm going to save and budget and do this. So he needs to be able to do that. And that's the big problem with a lot of these men. They think they're going to have a woman basically become a nurse. And that's not fair, because he's valuing the relationship, most likely. So we touched upon the health. Now we touched a little bit on his habits, but we're going to go more into habits. I shouldn't say habits, but routines. So what does he do with his time other than spending it with you? If you have children together, or you have children, is he spending time, quality time with the children? Is he helping to raise the children? Is he involved with the children? Because this is going to be a big thing. Does he find ways to get out of being around the children? You need to be aware of that. I'm reading Charles's thing. Yes, happy neighbors talk with each other. Is he involved with the neighbors? Is he involved with your family? Uh, what does he do with his time? Is he watching TV all the time? Is he playing video games all the time? A man that watches TV and plays video games a lot of times has very little to do with his life. Does he have healthy activities? Does he exercise? Does he say, hey, I'm going for a walk? I'm going to walk. I'm going to the beach to swim. I'm going to enjoy nature. I'm going to garden. I'm going to play some music. I mean, actually play music himself. He does jewelry. He does some form of hobby or activity, especially if his hobbies or activities help and enhance the relationship in some way, where, say, he could help create an income for the family with a hobby. Some men do this. I know of one. He does jewelry and things like that, and they sell it. So he's actually taking his free time, doing an activity, and in return, it helps to provide for the family a little bit more. He may garden, and with the excess amount of vegetables or whatever he's growing, he shares it with the family, your extended family. He shares it with the neighbors. He wants to be part of the community. He wants to sacrifice. He doesn't look at it as, oh, well, I grew this, so I will give it to my neighbors if they do something for me. No, I'm just going to give them to neighbors. Now, there's one YouTuber out there. He doesn't like me. Doesn't matter. But he does something that's really good. He will go to the bakery. He will buy Pansy and have them put in separate bags. And he will go to his neighbors and say, I got something for you, and just give them a bag of Pansy. Now, he doesn't have a lot of money. He's a crusty old guy, but this is a type of guy that actually is giving back to the community. He's not in for it for himself. So, Tim, good for you. Um, so that's the thing. What does he do with his free time? Is he involved with nothing more than the television and video games? Is he doing something that's stimulating for his brain? Uh, does he have the kids, or are you involved with it? Hey, let's ride bicycles. His activities we all have our private activities, and there should be activities with the family. Here in the West, the parents work so much they don't have a lot of family time activities until recently with COVID. Raising chickens, meat, and eggs. Yes, and Charles, that is something that I am planning to do myself. I would like to lease some land, grow some crops, have some goats, have some chickens, and with my surplus, hand it to the neighbors. And with my wife or girlfriend, if she feels the need to go out and maybe sell them or something and make some extra cash for herself, then she's free to do it. But that is where I am going to have a lot of my time devoted to, is doing gardening and all that to provide extra for the family and for our neighbors and her family and things like that. Television, I haven't owned a television since I'm trying to think, 2008. I haven't watched television since 2008. I don't like it. YouTube, that's about it. YouTube is more real. I mean, I've been in places of work where they have a television there and I've glanced at it, or you're at a laundromat and the television there and you glance at it, but actually to own a television or sit there and watched it, I'll house sit every once in a while. My friend had a television. I turned it on for, I think, a half an hour, and after that it was like, I'm done with this. I had Bob White quail, actually, and I still have my incubator in storage. So, yes, that is something that I would like to get into. Get back into incubation. Maybe have some quail or something like that. I know quail eggs are kind of like a commodity there, and that would be fun to do where the wife or girlfriend could actually, give them to the neighbors, her family, or sell them or something. But yes, are is his free time, his activities, is it enhancing your life too? I like doing jewelry, uh, beaded jewelry mainly. If you look at some of my video, I think I have one called Art, and you can see some of the things I do. Uh, you know, make some jewelry for my wife or girlfriend, or give them as gifts to the family or the neighbors. Hey, young girls, they have a birthday party or whatever, you're invited and you give them a nice handmade piece of jewelry. That's a treasure, especially when it's materials that are quality materials, and you give something like that. That shows, especially say, okay, I'm being invited to a birthday party, and it's my wife's niece, and she's going to turn 15. Okay, what does she like? She likes this. And I go and I actually make a piece of jewelry for her, especially for her, based on the colors she likes and all of that. To me, I am putting a part of myself out, saying, this is what I think of you, and this is how I care for you, to do that. Be aware of a man or a woman that goes and does that. A woman that says, I know I don't like this food that you do it, but I'm going to make you this meal even though I don't like it, and I'm going to do it the way you like it. And she does do it. She doesn't like it. She won't eat it. However, she makes it exactly the way you like it. She's sacrificing. She's going out of her way to show you her care for you. Sacrifice is showing your care. And if you do the same, you might say, hey, I like to cook too. I'm going to make your family a meal for your family, stuff that I don't like, but I'm going to make it in the way they like it. and they appreciate it and they like it and they say it's delicious, he sacrificed. He showed, he put out the care. And he actually does it. So, okay. And I'm trying to think. It's a short live stream. So, his emotional health, his spiritual health, that's the other thing. Part of a person's time should be in some form of meditation, religious or philosophical studies. How how is he bettering himself? What does he read? Is he reading or being involved with something that's actually helping him to grow as a person? Now, in my faith, it's not so much a faith; it's a lifestyle. So I am supposed to grow every second, every minute, every day, and there is a lot of sacrifice in that. And I'm supposed to grow in order to reach having my soul, my being closer to God. So that's a lot of that is putting down things. So part of the spiritual growth is also connected with the emotional part of the person. So let me give you some clues. This goes for both the man and woman. You know, you're getting really upset last night when you were standing in line at the bank and this and that. And he comes back and he says, "Yes, I know. I need to learn to stop that. I need to learn not to be so controlling and think everything should go my way. I need to learn to be more patient. I need to learn to let that go. I need to learn to be more accepting of that's the way this relative of yours is. I need to learn." And if they put it into practice, that person is doing their best to be the best person they can, not just for themselves, but for you. Honey, it would be really important for me if in this situation, if you didn't say anything or you didn't complain or you didn't make noises, you didn't stomp your feet and make faces. And especially if you put it in a right way, it, I'm self-conscious about it. It's a little embarrassing. And if he says, "Well, it's just the way it is with me," uh, he's not going to sacrifice for you. He's not going to grow for himself, and he's not going to grow for you. Yes, you're right. Do me a favor. If I start doing that, put your hand on my shoulder to remind me. And if, say, the situation came up and he's on the line, and you touch him on the shoulder and he turns to you, "Thank you for reminding me." He's growing. He's sacrificing. He's learning. He's becoming a better person. These are simple things in life that in the West, people have this immature mentality that the other person is supposed to bend to their will and I am who I am and you better accept it. Life is not like that. People like that should not be in any form of relationship because their relationships are based in value. Sounds like a Muscovy duck, Charles. So, it goes into full circle with that. You need, before you really commit to the relationship, you need to have talks, uncomfortable talks. And 90%, 80% of what this person has for you that is what you're looking for. The other 10 or 20% can be sure, just absolute hell for you. They can be wonderful and perfect in every way, but that 10 or 20% could be an absolute hell. And that hell will never change, or they have no desire to change. And before you have a commitment, say they want to change, if they're actually progressing in their change with their sacrifices, then the relationship is growing. A relationship has to grow. So I'm at a community garden. This is a perfect example of what I'm talking about with sacrifice. I hear this a lot from people. I'm at a community garden, and the people will complain about their plot. Oh, it's never going to be right. It's always got weeds. This is always happening. Uh, I feel like I just want to give up and just leave here and not have this plot anymore because it takes so much of my time. It's too much work, and it seems like I'm doing nothing more than pulling weeds all the time. First of all, they don't want to sacrifice the proper amount of time and effort to pull the weeds. They think just pulling the weeds at the surface is going to do it. No, you got to dig deep to get the roots of the weeds out. And that goes the same analogy, digging deep into those roots to get rid of it is the same as digging deep into your emotions and your past to get rid of that old mindset, that old habit that that keeps you unattractive. So number 1, you have to dig deep. Number 2, you have to maintain it. And part of the maintaining is a sacrifice of your time and your physical effort. That's a relationship, whether it be a garden or with another person. It's a relationship. And these people don't get it. They think it's just supposed to magically happen for them. It is hard work. Then what's being produced? Feed the weeds to chickens and ducks. I did. They loved them. Yes. I have weeds in my garden, what people call weeds. I let them grow because I eat them. They have a lot of nutrition and they have a lot of medicinal properties. So there you go. They don't want to dig deep. They don't want to sacrifice part of themselves to become a better person, to have a better garden. They don't want to maintain it. They don't want to put in the time that's needed for that relationship with that garden or with that relationship with that person to maintain it. And then with their hard work and effort, it's not always fruitful as they want it to be. Always. Sometimes the other partner's having issues too. They have highs and lows too. They have things that get into the way, like the family. A parent might be sick. You had something planned to go somewhere. The mother got sick. We can't go because I need to take care of your mother. Then that fruitfulness of doing what you had planned isn't going to happen. And if he's going to say, I understand, that's more important, that's a good person. I understand for some reason because of the weather or whatever the circumstances, that particular plant isn't producing. I'm not going to get upset about that. It's just nature, it's part of life. So these people complain about a garden and they complain the same way about their family life and their relationships with their friends and their family members. They're not mature. They've been sold a pack of goods that, you know, life is going to be wonderful. All I have to do is study hard, go to school, get this job, and life. I learned all my life not to have hope. I don't believe in hope. Hope is the expectation that something is going to magically change for you. No, you have to work at it. And sometimes you work hard at things and they don't work out. And you have to be able to walk away and say, well, what did I take away from this situation? What did I learn? So, folks, these are big things that you need to be aware with in anything. And especially with the Pinays, you need to really be aware with the men. A lot of the Western men are little boys. They're not emotionally developed. They get very upset about things and they'll run to alcohol or a video game. Escapism. Escapism is big in the West. If you can't, if you have a issue come up, a disappointment come up, and you can't sit quietly with it and meditate on it and see where you had some learning experience from it, you have to escape from it. He's not mature. The other thing, too, I'm going to end is a lot of Westerners have this flippant attitude of it's all good, where, how do I put it in a correct way? They have an attitude that they are bringing your level of lifestyle up because of their money. You know, you know their money brings you more, which is fair. But at the same time, they have an attitude of value again, that my value is greater, so I can have a flippant attitude in the way I treat people and the way I say things. They treat things like a joke, and they have it's all good attitude. So they could say something rude, and what did you mean by that? Oh, it's all good. It's all good. It doesn't mean anything. And they laugh. That's a red flag. If someone is something is brought to someone's attention that something is unacceptable or maybe offensive to people because of their culture and they're flippant, it's called flippant. It means you don't take anything seriously. Everything's a joke to you. Every you know, basically everything that doesn't fit into your realm is a joke. They're more like parasites. However, if you step into their realm and what you do steps on their toes or is offensive to them, oh, they will react, they will get upset, they will read you a riot act of why you shouldn't do that, why your family shouldn't do that because it's insulting, it's rude, and blah blah blah. And you, if you laugh and say, "Well, it's just how they are," well, you're not taking it seriously. This is a big deal. Big red flag. How he responds to things with his little pranks and his little jokes and his little jabs shows that he's not a mature person. He's a little boy. We have a lot of men like this. They're little boys. It's called here we call it passive aggressive. They like to make little comments about things. Say you're walking down the street and it was like, oh, it looks like she's having a bad hair day. And he makes some comment about it. And he's very arrogant about it. Oh, Charles just, it's called arrogant. Yes. It's called arrogant. Yes. Flippant, arrogant. You know, I'm the Westerner. I am the special person. We are the special people. And you need to bow to us because we are the Westerners and we are the special people. And you are just the peasants that we are going to bring up and enhance your life. And you must bow to our wills. This is their mentality. Charles is brilliant, Charles. It's arrogant. And this is how they are. And they will actually show it. They'll show, oh, I bought all these toys for my kids, and I did all of this, and I have this, and I'm showing off this, and you know what? A proper person will not show how royal they are, but they will treat other people like they are royal, and they will stay humble. So when your Western man is humble, but he treats other people like they are royal, like they are special, he's a keeper. And Charles, I agree with this. I see this on YouTube all the time. I said this in the last one. I don't know what you're talking about. You don't. It's like your English skills are nothing. Oh, what you're on there? You're taking up my time on my live stream, saying this nonsense, and it's like you need to go away and let me do my live stream because it's embarrassing. I'm really sorry about that, folks. I don't know what she's doing. It's such an embarrassment that I go through this all the time. It's like all day with her. Oh, that's the guy I'm talking about. Charles has seen it. He'll roll his eyes as she's talking. Learn her language and speak her language as much, half as good as she's doing. And part of sacrifice, going back to the first one, part of sacrificing is taking the time to communicate and learn to communicate. That's maturity. He needs to learn your language. He should have a joy in his heart. He should say, you know what, I love it that you're teaching me Tagalog or, whatever language. There's several languages in the Philippines. I love that you're teaching me this, and I love going to your family's house, and I love greeting them and doing this, and then they greet me back in English. You know what? That is a mature relationship. That's a mature gentleman. Gentlemen. A gentleman will do things like that. And this is going to be the next one. Is he a gentleman? So part 3, signs that he is a gentleman. And it will be going back to this, uh, um, the first and the second. But you need to have a gentleman. You don't need a spoiled brat child, little boy that thinks that he can bark and yell to get his way. You need a gentleman. And I'm going to end, yes, boyish, arrogant. And I'm going to end this live stream with an observation. During World War II, London would be bombed. And people's houses would be destroyed, but they'd have like a little bomb shelter. And the majority of the people there weren't saddened, weren't distraught. Their attitude was, well, we lost a house, but we have our lives. Now we're going to go to the chairs and the tables outside our shelter tonight and have tea. And the men would dress up, and the ladies and the children would dress up, and they'd serve like proper ladies and gentlemen, having their tea and saying, "Damn with the Germans. They're not going to take our civilization from us." And they would have their tea and behave like proper mature adults. In in this wake of devastation and having 90% of their goods that they lived with destroyed, and living in bomb shelters with other families and sharing tea and being proper people and being proper, well mannered ladies and gentlemen. That's what you want, because when he's at the Philippines, it's not going to be like it is the way it is here. And as we say here, you're not in Kansas anymore. So how he behaves there as a gentleman should be a red flag if he's a keeper or he's not. Okay, thank you, Charles. I'm ending. Oh, his arrogant Odo's Mavic show. He does some great drone work, and I love his sense of humor with his videos. So please visit his channel. We'll come up to a screeching halt when he has to speak her language, or his arrogance will absolutely, Odo. Absolutely. Odo, I believe, has been there for 30 years. I He's one of my favorite YouTubers because of his videos, his sense of humor, and he's a true gentleman. He's one of the very mature people out there on YouTube. So please visit his show. He does some great videos on drone work, and I love it. He's very creative, very artistic. Uh, his choice of music is delightful. I love it. So he will demonstrate to you what I'm talking about with a gentleman. And he has videos with his family, and you can see what I'm talking about. So God bless you all. I'm hoping to do this again next week. Unfortunately, this is the time because the Wi-Fi is not great in the afternoon, where it's better for the folks in the Philippines because of the internet being inundated by young folks that can't go to school anymore. So God bless you. I appreciate you coming to my live stream. And thank you, Charles, for checking out his channel. So we'll go from there. Thank you for coming. And thank you for your kind comments here and your participation.